Hello, all. Welcome to Blaine's Escape Corner, our little corner of the internet where we get together, we talk about things that help us escape. I am your host, Blaine, titular character in the Escape Corner, and I have just seen Godzilla, my favorite little monster friend. Give me just a second here. I'm gonna crack a rye. We're just having a little bit of rye. We're gonna get a Godzilla review in, and that's gonna probably be it. So we're gonna do chat catch up here. I'm gonna do the Godzilla review, starting with the no spoilers version. Then we'll get into spoilers, and then we may have some Q&A potentially if someone's interested in Godzilla stuff, and then we'll end the stream. So quick one for everyone. Thank you for your patience. Kampai. Plug yourself in, 63%. You should invest in battery pack. Must have stayed for the post credits and drinks. Actually, no. I looked up, I read there were no post credits, and I'm gonna just believe the internet on that one. The end was enough of an end, I believe. He's recording a parking lot review. No, I could have gone live, I guess, from my phone. I suppose that would have worked. You know what that means. Phil Swift never fails to deliver. Toxic Tuesday. Indeed, this is where I started. 27 minutes late. You plug in your phone in the office and lurk. Perfect. You waited for you, and you're just going to pump and dump and leave. It's fine. Yeah, let's call it that. Let's call it that. I mean, I could have just not done a stream tonight, I guess. I could have just waited, but I had too much fun. I enjoyed that movie too much. I'm glad I set up for a stream. So, spoiler alert, it's good. It's very, very good. All right, let's get into it from a non-spoiler review. I went to the theater wearing my original Godzilla shirt, because when you go see a Godzilla movie, you have to wear Godzilla merch. When you get back from a movie, you have to hold your cute little Godzilla, because everybody loves Godzilla. Godzilla's the greatest. Godzilla in film, when it's done in a really like high class way, represents so much more than big monster punch thing. Now, when I was a kid, I loved big monster punch thing. Godzilla, hero of Tokyo, saving them from giant moth or saving them from three-headed dragon. I didn't know much other than Godzilla, and then my cousin introduced me to all of the films, and so now I'm a huge fan. Been that way for 25 years now. I love everything about Godzilla. I love the big silly suits in the old ones. I love the way that the more modern ones use copious amounts of CG in like the best way for the time, but they look kind of weird still. I like the way that Godzilla changes over the years and is actually different Godzillas as they go, and I love just every interpretation. And so most recently, we have a couple Godzillas, right? We have the legendary Godzillas, which are Godzilla, big man, fight Earth or fight other monsters, and Godzilla versus King Kong. They're giving us that big monster smash. And from Japan, with Shin Godzilla specifically, we were getting Godzilla, the force of nature, and how does humanity deal with this? How do they deal with this? How do we handle a creature that's seemingly unstoppable by every weapon we have at our disposal? It's a question. It's a problem. It forces people to figure out who they are and what they are. And this Godzilla follows along with that perfectly. It follows along with Japan, and Godzilla is attacking, and the people that are involved have to figure out, in the wake of everything else they're dealing with, how to stop Godzilla. And they come together, and they just, it's like any other Godzilla. They devise a plan kind of works, and then another plan sort of materializes as they go. Very very classic in the way that it happened. The score was amazing. Easily the best part of this film today was the music. Hearing those original Godzilla big brass sounds, that bum bum, but recorded with all of our modern deep diaphragm technology, making it sound so good. I love the original Godzilla sound, the original soundtracks. They're fantastic, but when you're playing them with how they've been preserved and how they were recorded, you have a much tinnier version of like a burr, burr, and it's so much cooler if you have, like, say, a Godzilla the orchestra coming through and you can go see it like a full band. You're like, oh wow, this is cool. And so this film does really well at taking that classic music, giving it the full orchestra, but sticking to, here is our lead in. It's just big burn, burn. Like I adore their commitment to sticking to the classics. They did bring in, they've got some other music throughout, some stuff to get a little bit of a feel good, a little bit of a sad moment. Like they've got plenty of other sounds, but when it came down to Godzilla Rampage time, it was very very classic. Also, I love Godzilla slow and lumbering. Look at this doofy shape, okay? This is not built for land speed. This is an aquatic speedy creature. The land steps, not so great. And having a Godzilla that's just sort of like moving at very slowly, but because he's just so big, he's crushing and killing and leaving all this wake of destruction. That's fantastic, because you're watching it, and at the same time you're like, wow, he's not moving very fast, and you see all the destruction. You're like, wow, it just doesn't take a lot. It's like a tsunami, right? Like a tsunami's a fairly small wave in perspective to like wave height, but there's just so much water, it just destroys entire areas. Love that aspect of Godzilla. What else do I want to talk about before we get into spoilers? I really like the atomic beam system that they had this time, but it did feel very video gamey. It was really nice to have, in addition to glowing spikes, have the spikes on Godzilla's back move out and then chunk back in, sort of like you're ramming a reactor core or something back down to create the atomic breath. But it was sort of like, how does that work on a biological scale? I don't know. I don't know how that works, really, at the end of the day. And I think the last thing before we get into spoilers is I love Godzilla when he has the head of a cat. So throughout the years, Godzilla's head started out as a mushroom cloud and then got cartoony. Then he got a little angry, and that angry Godzilla sort of turned into a cat head. And that's my favorite Godzilla head, is the one that looks like a cat. And the reason for that is when you have this giant monster that's destroying a town, it also is just getting distracted by things that move. So anyone who has a cat and they like move a toy and suddenly the cat wants that toy, but then you move a different toy and suddenly the cat wants that toy, you see that in Godzilla's face when you have like a train come by and he's like, ooh, train. Or like suddenly there's people screaming and running, or someone shoots at him. He's like, oh, other thing. Like he's so easily distracted by just any little thing. And just that cat, like, I'm just destroying things, but it's on this like gargantuan scale. I think that's just a fantastic way to do a Godzilla. Classic mistake for guys who only watch 5 a year. Oh yeah. I did not expect there to be an hour of crap before the movie start. I thought the hour of crap was before the time the movie was supposed to start. Usually when I click play movie, it just plays movie, Um, classic. Googly Eye Shin Godzilla has a heart in me too, especially when the Americans showed up. 2014 Spikes with the hum at night was dope. Yeah. Yeah, anything that like lets you know and lets the people in universe know that Godzilla's getting ready to go all atomic breath is fantastic. So, spoiler Gundams on deck. Let's move him over a little bit and let's talk about this movie. So this movie, for those who are unaware, I'm giving everyone one more chance to go see Godzilla before you finish this review. This movie takes place right after / during the end of World War II. So we open on Oda Island, that is a little repair shop island for kamikaze pilots. So kamikaze, when Japan was running out of pilots, they didn't have them well trained. They were trying to just stop America at whatever cost. There's any number of reasons that you can look at historically for Japan moving to this kamikaze technique, where they would literally load up planes and have them just crash into American ships to try to stop us from moving through the Pacific towards them. We open on a kamikaze pilot saying he's got trouble and he's landing on this island. They check his plane. There's no trouble with it. He was just not going to kamikaze because he was too scared. Japan is a very strict honor culture, and so it's a very dishonorable thing to do, which is the equivalent of someone just slapping and just being. It's hard to explain in our culture how big of a deal this is when somebody doesn't want to do what they should for the emperor. But this is a big problem. And so he lands, they check his plane out, no problems. And that night, while he's out sulking, he notices fish floating up, and then Godzilla attacks. Now, this Godzilla is much smaller. However, it's like as big as they wanted it to be. So it comes out and it's about the height of this light tower that they have that they turn on, but he's hunched a little bit. So he's taller than the light tower. He smashes the light tower, and they're all running scared. They tell the guy, go get in your plane to shoot him. He doesn't shoot him. Godzilla ends up wiping out everybody. But there's a couple shots where Godzilla's foot comes down and crushes some people. And either the closeness of the camera to the person or something they were trying to film it made it look like Godzilla suddenly had this huge, like his foot. I was like, wow, that's a big foot. And then he kept moving around. Maybe if you look at it in the CG, you get a nice wide angle. Everything's proportioned well. But the angles that they were shooting some of those initial Godzilla kills while he's still small, it felt like Godzilla was this big, and then he was this big, and then he was this big again. Now he's this big, and kind of a throwback to back when he was literally whatever size he needed to be for the show he was in. Following that, so our kamikaze pilot doesn't die as a kamikaze. He doesn't die in Godzilla, and one other guy survives, and they get back. Everything is burnt because Tokyo was just firebombed. Like you can look up pictures of what happened to Tokyo during all of the bombings that we ran, just decimated. And so he comes back to parents are gone, his sister's all that's left. I don't even know if she's actually technically related. He just calls her older sis. Could be like one of those just neighborhood friends who's always been the older sister. And then we get life with the guy. Godzilla's not in the movie for a while. Like, we get the guy. He encounters another orphan, or an orphan with a woman, and they come into his life, and they don't really leave. And he's too kind of PTSD'd and also still nervous about being a kamikaze pilot who didn't kill himself to kick them out and get rid of them. And so they become a part of his life, and we learn about him trying to find work, and And he eventually becomes a mine retriever, a mine sweeper, if you will. And he goes out with this little crew in these little wooden boats where they go and they cut the mines, and then they shoot the mines to make sure that they clean them up, basically. So if the mine's detonated, don't have to worry about it. So he's making money and everything's all good. And then there's an atom bomb test on the island, Atolla Island. Insert island name here, where they do an atom bomb test. And I like the scene where they show the footage of the test, and then it sort of like Godzilla is kind of nearby and you can hear him screaming, but then the atom bomb turns into Godzilla's head. I wish it was just the explosion with like the original audio from the nuclear test. And then you take that original audio from the nuclear test and it's like, and then you have it sweep into Godzilla, just pan fade across. I don't need to see Godzilla's face. I get it if I hear Godzilla scream at the end of an atom bomb. Like, obviously, he's nearby, something's happening. And so then we start getting reports that boats are going under. There is something in the water, and it's on its way. And so our little tiny minesweeper boat, for some reason, gets sent out to see what's going on. And they come across a destroyer that is just mangled. And our main guy finally he's like, oh my gosh, this has got to be Godzilla because I'm seeing these fish. And what are we doing here? They're waiting for the Takao, this giant cruiser of Japan's. And it is on its way over to help out. But he's like, this isn't going to work. So they're running. They've got their mines. And Godzilla's coming for them because, of course, Godzilla was just hanging out around a ship that he had already destroyed. And so they throw some mines at Godzilla. Classic video game, like get him in the mouth and see what happens. And then Godzilla turns and the giant cruiser Takao is there to fight. But of course, that's where we first get to see Godzilla's got atomic breath now. So he has earned atomic breath through the nuclear testing power up. And following this, Godzilla comes into town and smashes the town. He goes specifically, they show him destroying Ginza, and he, like I said earlier, he's like a cat. Like, he's smashing buildings, and then something is loud, and he sees a train, and he goes and he bites the train and just stands up like a pet where they're like, I got it. Like, he's just destroying things. He's not mad. He's not angry. He's not happy. He's just my stuff now and just smashing things. Tail swipe, all this kind of stuff. And then finally, there are some tanks that start shooting at him. And when tanks start shooting at Godzilla, that's when Godzilla powers up the power breath. Okay, we get atomic breath blast with another atom bomb explosion. And all the time that Godzilla is attacking in the Ginza area, this happens to be where our intrepid hero's not wife, lady friend works. And so he came to save her. He meets up with her after she barely survived getting away from Godzilla. And then after this explosion that Godzilla creates, she just gets blown away. Like just whoosh, gone. Giant shockwave comes rippling through the city. And she kind of pushes him into an alleyway where he survives. And you just go, whoop, she's gone. She's off the screen. And she doesn't get sucked back or any, like we never see her again. And so he returns. Godzilla goes back into the ocean for some reason. He's just like, all right, I did it. Because again, Godzilla's not like a malicious force. He's just like, my stuff now. Like he's like as malicious as a toddler. Like he's just, this is my area. And so we have Godzilla going back into the ocean. And our guy goes back to his little section of town, and they get all these people together in order to create like a civilian service that'll help, because the government isn't going to do anything because the US and the Soviets are fighting. So the US won't send help. They're not going to ask the Soviets for help. And if the Japanese government does anything, they're scared that the US and the Soviets will come attack them again. And so now you've got civilian crew. They got 4 museum destroyers that they're going to try to figure out how to stop Godzilla with. And they come up with a plan. And their plan is bubbles. At first, I was so excited for this plan because one of the ways that Godzilla was killed in the past was with the oxygen bomb, a bomb that blows up and removes all the oxygen in an area. And if there's no oxygen in an area, then nothing can survive. So it's going to kill Godzilla. This is a canonical death of a Godzilla, okay? And the way that they portray it in that movie is it's just a lot of bubbles that sort of are like, and then they kind of stop. And you're like, oh, look, you got all the oxygen. Cool. So I thought when they were like, oh, what happens if I add bubbles? They're like, oh, nothing's gonna happen. And then he adds bubbles and it sinks. And I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna remove the oxygen. They're gonna kill Godzilla with oxygen. But no, their grand plan, the civilian core, is to use Freon to make bubbles so that Godzilla slips through the water to the very bottom of this trench. And hopefully the ocean will crush him. And then if the ocean doesn't crush him, they're going to bring him back up as fast as they can and give him the Godzilla bends. For those who don't know, if you're diving, you'll see divers, they'll blow a bubble and then they'll rise as slow as the bubble, or more modern divers with like a nice system will like rise a little bit at a time because your body has to kind of reset and get used to the different pressures. And if you come up too fast, blood boil, nitrogen in the blood, there's all kinds of bad things that happen that lead to you getting a thing called the bends, which can kill you. And so they're like, oh, we're going to either crush him with the ocean or we'll decompress him and he'll be fine, and he'll die. And it just seems like such a dumb idea. I was like, this idea is so dumb that like it has to work, because oxygen bomb is also dumb idea. Yeah, sure, you remove the oxygen, he can die. But in this one, we've seen Godzilla's healing factor, basically. So the atomic bomb has given him the ability to just mutant heal everything. You'll watch him take damage in the face and then just bubbles back out and he's fine. So the idea that just crushing him for a bit and then bringing him back up is going to be a death sentence seems far-fetched. I'm thinking we need more like freeze him to death, or, you know, something, send him to space and then we get Space Godzilla in the next one. That's where my brain is at the time in the movie. I'm like, there's no way this works. Like that's just what's actually going to stop him. I'm not really sure if this is a great idea. So they go through their idea, and then they also talk to our ex-kamikaze pilot. He says, I'm going to find me a plane. Get me a plane, and I'll help distract Godzilla. I can get him to where you need him, because you've only got these 2 ships, and you're going to try to like circle him up and wrap the nitrogen around him so that we can drop him to the bottom with the Freon canisters. And they find him a plane that is a plane from Crimson Skies. Anyone who played flight sims on their PCs back when all computers were beige should know what Crimson Skies is. And this plane is rear wings, big wings coming out the back, propellers in the back, little tiny wings in the front. It's got guns, everything. Like, this is straight out of that game. I love this plane. This plane's great, but it's not ready to fly. So to get it ready to fly, our guy contacts the one survivor from the island where he originally saw Godzilla, the only other guy to have seen Godzilla and survived. And at this point, I'm going to take time and talk about what the human has been dealing with, what Ko-chan, Shinichiro, has been dealing with. He has had so much sort of PTSD built up from, like, you have to go die as a kamikaze pilot, then he decides to survive, and then he survives the war. So he's a war survivor, so he has guilt from that. He was supposed to shoot Godzilla when they first saw Godzilla on the island where they repaired his plane, or looked at his plane when he said it was broken, and he didn't shoot him, and so he's got guilt from all the people that died there. He gets back to his home life, and his parents are dead. Everyone around him is dead. The girl that he brought in with the baby, the girl's parents died. The baby's mom handed the baby to this girl and said, run and live. And so you have this like burden of guilt built up from having all of these people just around him that continue to die while he is continually forced to live. And he is dealing through the entire show with this burden of, uh, he says the war isn't over for him because he's still fighting something. He feels like he can't stop until he's actually died, basically, is sort of the message that you're getting the entire time. And so he reaches out to the other guy on the island, and that guy hates him because he's like, you could have shot Godzilla. And it's like, we know that if he shot Godzilla, it wouldn't be the end of Godzilla, because it's a movie called Godzilla. And so he says, listen, put bombs in my plane and I will kamikaze into Godzilla's mouth. I know that something inside him is going to hurt him more. Fix the plane. And the guy's like, yeah, fine, I'll do that. I'm going to set you up with the best ride over the river Styx. And so that guy shows up, fixes up the plane, gets it all going, shows the guy the plane. And he says, okay, when you're flying in, pull this lever, and that'll be how you arm the bomb. So right before you hit Godzilla, pull this lever, arm the bomb, go in. I honestly thought that was a redemptive moment for this mechanic who hates him. I thought pulling that lever was going to be the seat eject, and that would be how, like, he's like, you know what, I hate you, but you need to survive, and so I told you this, and it ejected you, and it saved you. I thought that's where this was going. And so we get to the final appearance of Godzilla. They're like, oh, Godzilla's off coast, and they're tracking him with these little radiation buoys. And for some reason, they're tracking him from, like, way out there. Like, they know Godzilla's coming. They're like, he'll be here by 11 a.m. tomorrow. And they continue to track him, and then they get surprised by him being there sooner. I was like, are you sure? I don't know that we're really surprised that Godzilla got here this fast. I think you just forgot to, I don't know, carry the one or something like that. Like, what are we doing here? So Godzilla makes landfall, even though they need him out in the water for their plan, and starts just slowly walking and, like, crushing stuff. And so our boy sets off in his airplane to go distract Godzilla, starts doing circles. Godzilla bites at him. Godzilla swings the tail. Godzilla's chasing him, and then he gets out to the ocean, and Godzilla starts taking off. And so pretty fun scene, honestly, when Godzilla kind of lumberingly falls into the ocean and starts really, really speeding up. And it's like, oh, see, look, he's a sea monster, not a land monster. I liked that scene quite a bit. And then gets him out into position. The boats start to circle around, and my brain, when they first said, we're going to, like, wrap the boats around, I was like, aren't your props going to get caught up in all that wiring or something? Like, there's going to be an issue there. They had a plan. The clever Japanese had a plan for how to wrap Godzilla up without wrapping themselves up. On one of the boats, they had a big old crane that held the wire way over, so the other boat could go under the wire. And using a little bit of real-life physics called Bernoulli's equation, where when two boats are moving really close together and the water between them is not moving relative to the moving boats, but if you look at one of the boats as though it wasn't moving and the water is, it actually sucks the boats together. So right before the boats start to pass, the captain's like, we're going to take some damage and it's unavoidable. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And then sure enough, as they get closer, they just kind of like, it's like sucked together and like, bam, smash in and drag across. A really fun little bit of realism in a movie about blowing up a giant radioactive lizard. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Bernoulli, for weighing in on the Godzilla movie. So they wrap Godzilla up. They get the Freon canisters around him, and it tightens up. They trigger him, and he just sinks like a rock. And he goes down, and then kind of like shrinks a little bit in what is one of the funniest. There's only a few scenes of Godzilla that are kind of goofy looking. And the first one is when they're on their little wooden minesweeper boat and, like, trying to run away from Godzilla, and Godzilla stands up out of the water. That stand up looks a little weird, but it's only like a 2 second little like cut. So I'm not too mad at that. But when Godzilla hits the bottom, he literally hits the bottom like a toy, like dink. And then the whole like Godzilla model just sort of compresses a little bit in just a really silly way. Like I actually stifled a little bit of a laugh there. And so they crunch him a little bit at the bottom of the ocean, and Godzilla starts pulling on the cables. They're like, he's still alive. And so they trigger these like rafts that are supposed to float him back up to the surface in order to give him the bends. And as he's on his way up, he starts like crystallizing, and it's not looking good for him. But then he pops the balloons because he's got teeth and scales everywhere. So it doesn't really work. And then you get your first like, when you watch a good film like this, where it's like man against the elements, there's always this moment where like somebody shows up to help, and like everything in you is like, I need to help. And so like it's like this welling up, and like the people around you are crying, and you're like, we got to do something. Like you get this real sense of like, go do a thing, go help kill Godzilla. And all of the tugboats and every boat practically from the Tokyo Bay is now on its way out to help pull Godzilla up. So Godzilla went down to 1,500 meters, came back up to about 800, and then they tie up all the tugboats to the main boat, which that had to have taken a while. I know like a little bit about like boats and how to like hook them all up. And they want to like pull these two boats apart to rip him the rest of the way. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this took so long. Like Godzilla has to be fine at this point. Like, he's got to be decompressed. They're gonna pull him up, and he's just gonna be like, "Rawr, I'm gonna attack." Sure enough, they pull him up, and he's like, "Rawr, I'm gonna attack," and he starts to power up his super beam. And you're like, yeah, I mean, he fully decompressed at 800, but he is still kind of hurting. Like he's got these like weird like jewel things on him from the bends that they gave him. And so as he's powering up his super breath, our main guy lines up his plane, and everyone's like, what is he doing? And it goes slow motion. It's silent. One of the best scenes. It's just silent. You're looking at Godzilla getting ready. Everyone starts moving in slow-mo. Then the music cuts. And then you just hear as it cuts to like where his plane is. Now, personally, I love this scene. However, if I was going to make it better, as his plane comes into the frame of the camera, the music starts to swell back up, and you get back into the full music, the full sound effects, everything comes back. I would have kept it just music all the way until the end of the flight. I don't know that I would have brought the music back. I think it would be more impactful if it was full silent and all you heard was maybe him and his breathing as he's flying this plane directly into Godzilla's mouth as Godzilla is prepping his atomic blast. And so he's flying towards Godzilla's mouth. He pulls that lever to get the bombs armed and keeps flying. So I was like, dang it, that wasn't the guy didn't put the eject seat in the pole arm to like save the guy's life, because the guy knew he had a kid, kinda, and wanted him to do all this stuff. And I was like, oh, dang it. So he's like flying in, and then right before he hits Godzilla, he grabs another lever and yanks that lever and ejects his seat out. And you're like, oh, he did it. And everyone's like, oh no, that guy suicided into Godzilla's mouth, but he saved us all, yay. And they're like, no, look, he's alive. And they look up, and his parachute's opening up. And then it shows the mechanic who's listening in on his radio, and he just starts crying, right? Like it's the perfect scene of the mechanic guy. And then it cuts to a flashback. We're in the middle of Godzilla just like got blowed up from the face with a plane. And then we cut to flashback after seeing that guy like all sad and like, oh, I do. And then it shows him getting the guy into the plane cockpit, and he's like, this seat has an ejector seat. Pull this lever. You need to live. And I get it that it's supposed to be the guy that hates this guy the most, that thinks this guy is the reason all his friends died, that all of these people have died because of this guy, is telling him it's time for you to live. I like the scene. Put the scene when he's getting in the plane and have the guy kind of wrestle with that idea. The jump cut here was weird to me. And then we go back and Godzilla's missing half his face. And in another classic Godzilla death, they brought us 2 Godzilla deaths. They brought us bubble him down to the bottom of the ocean, and Godzilla's a walking nuclear reactor, so if we overload him, he'll explode. So he's about to blast his breath, his throat gets destroyed. Where's the breath go? Whole body just falls apart into the ocean. And Godzilla is dead. They come back, and then he meets his sister. His sister gives him a letter, and the girl that he brought in, that's his pseudo, I'm going to call her the wife because at this point she might as well be, is alive in a hospital. And so our final scene is our guy running to the hospital with the little girl, and they see her, and she's in the hospital with an arm sling and a head bandage. And I'm thinking, you got blown away by a Godzilla atomic bomb. Like, you were standing here and we watched you go whoop, like, to the point where when our guy left the little hallway to find you, you were nowhere, okay? At least give us 2 arm casts and like 2 leg casts. Like let's pretend she's a little bit more injured, okay? Or this was like not just the 10 days later that it actually was. I felt like that was like, come on, like, we can wrap her up a little bit more. Her face can still be exposed if we want the actress to still be there, but like, I feel like she needs a full body cast or something, because that was a little silly. It was nice to have a little bit of a cheerful end, still in spite of that. I was fully ready for her just to be dead. So like the film did a really good job at setting up her character, making us care, then having her leave, having that mean something, to the point where then her coming back in was also like, oh wow, this is great. I can't believe that he's gonna get a happy ending. And then our real final scene of the movie was a chunk of Godzilla falling that starts to bubble like it's the Godzilla healing factor. So real ending scene, Godzilla's coming back. What will he be? We'll not know yet. I hope to find out. I hope they make another one. I quite enjoyed this movie. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and this movie continues to make me a Godzilla fan. So there is my review. I would say go watch it. If you watch it and you like it, buy some merch from it. Definitely worth supporting the people that made this show. Kanpai. And now for the after credits. Hello, Brandon.
Kanpai to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
How's the quality with this stupid setup?
Same as last time you used it.
Just eh.
Yeah, I mean, it better than a webcam, not as good as a full mic, you know?
I don't feel like using my full mic. I had to redo my system, but please tell us the after credits. I'm curious.
No, that's you and me talking about it now.
Oh, okay.
There is no after credits that I'm aware of.
Well, we know that the Godzilla will come back, but I was.
They set it up for a mutant Godzilla, so that excites me.
That'll be good. That will be fun. Yes, Soranos. It's headset Brandon tonight. I had to rebuild my computer and redo stuff, and I've got the mic plugged in. I just don't feel like using it. So
yeah, it's perfectly fine with
but
me.
I do want to see this movie, but I'm afraid I won't be able to before it leaves the theaters, and it won't be coming back because of how their Toho's contract with Lionsgate is. They are not allowed to have a movie the same year that Lionsgate's releasing one, so they're releasing one next year. So, yeah, it just makes them.
You might get like a Fathom Events or something that might.
I hope so,
because
this thing sounds ridiculously awesome.
It is great. And honestly, it'll probably just be, streaming somewhere that you can watch it by the time that it would do a Phasma Best.
Eventually, yeah.
So definitely one to watch. You find it on Blu-ray. That's the cost of a couple movie tickets.
Yeah,
Watch it at
I'll get
home
it on
with the
4K. I
family.
absolutely want this on 4K. It just
Excellent.
sounds so good. And let me ask you this.
Yes.
Since you are the Godzilla otaku among us here,
Hmm.
do you the practical effect works that was done in this? Do you think it's vastly better and will hold up better than, let's say, the CGI stuff that Lionsgate's doing?
No, I don't think so. I think there's enough CG in this movie that even waifu is like, some of those planes looked funny. Some of the boats looked kind of funny. And some of them do. And like I said, there's this one scene where Godzilla literally is like kind of swimming after them and then sort of stands up. It looks really goofy. Like
Mm.
you will never be able to get past the quaintness of a guy in a suit. That's just you can't fix that in CG. And I don't
Oh.
think you should. I don't think you should try to make CG that looks like a guy in a suit. I think we love guy in a suit because of just how much work and how much effort it took to make that look as good as it did.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think doing whatever you can with like the modern CG is going to be much better. But there's some full body shots of Godzilla where he's walking around and he's got this goofy belly. Like he looks very funny and silly as like a creature. You're like, why does he look like that? But I mean, he was created by an atomic explosion, so
Yeah.
it's okay that he's a little weird looking. But I think over time it'll be one that is like, wow, that's way better than everything else around it. But I'm not gonna say that like we won't be like, wow, look what CG used to be. Like we'll still have that thought when we look at it.
Well, from what I understand, the budget for it's 15 million or it's 35 million. Can't. It's somewhere in between there. But considering how much it cost versus how much they're getting out of it, it
Hmm.
sounds like they definitely got their money's worth.
Well,
Their
and
money's worth out of it.
the there's a huge uh contingent that I remember when the first Lionsgate Godzilla came out. It was, why? How do you make a Godzilla movie without Godzilla in it until the very end? There
Yeah.
have been lots of those. So the movie just sucked on its own. It wasn't
Hmm.
the fact that Godzilla wasn't in it, because in this movie, Godzilla's in it for like a, you know, 4 minute intro scene and then gone for it was probably 40 minutes before you see Godzilla again. Like it's just all about him dealing with what he saw, and then also like how is the town rebuilding after World War II. So like
I see.
creating that human element that we care about, that we're interested in, it's something that you can do without Godzilla, and you have to do, because if you don't care about these people, you just get the Godzilla versus town. And Godzilla versus town was never fun. Godzilla versus monster to protect his territory, fun. Godzilla versus the army, while we care about these boys and kids and girls and the town and everything that's in it, that's interesting. But if
Hmm.
it's just Godzilla breaking buildings, it's like, woo, woo,
Yeah,
you lose it.
if you see it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. You got to have higher stakes than just Godzilla knocking down all the buildings.
Mm,
But that's awesome. That this is such a good movie, considering what it is, and
yep.
it, from what it sounds like for a Godzilla movie, it's as high art as it gets.
Oh, easily.
So
Easily.
that's awesome, and I've actually updated my watch list again.
Oh, what do we got?
What's missing?
I don't know. I am
MF
not my
Ghost.
brother's watch list keeper. You dropped MF Ghost?
I paused it. Yeah, I've paused
Ah,
it.
that's fine.
And Ron
Serrano's dropped it too.
Kamendashi, I paused it. And I've paused a few others, so I'm down to the 10. I'm down
You
to
did it.
10 now, so.
You
Ugh.
gotta find up a name for your 10, like the Kami 10 or something that's like every season you have 10 shows that are guaranteed to make it through because that's how much time you have in a schedule. And then just
That's not a bad
as you
idea.
whittle down to it, you can be like, we found them. The season's 10 or whatever you want to call it.
That's a good idea. And say when the end of the year comes around, I think that's something that'll do besides doing the anime awards
Oh, there you
for
go.
the year. But I think these 8 or these 10, I think they're worthy of everybody's time. You know, let's see. Naughtiness, it's funny. S rank adventure, it's fun. Shield Hero, yeah, it's Shield Hero. Goblin Slayer, Goblin Slayer. Although I think Freyrin really does. I think it really does deserve the best brand new show of the year, if not of the past of this decade. It really is that good.
Hmm.
It's right up there with Spy Family and all that, and looking at it, it's got a higher overall score. Spy
Nice.
Family, but definitely Spy Family. Shangri-La. The scores on here are definitely a lot harsher than they are on Crunchyroll. I've noticed.
Interesting.
The only one that's on,
I just started Shangri-La.
yeah, Shangri-La, I think is fun and it is really good. But most of these, I think out of all these that I've seen, they've all got about a 4.7 or above on Crunchyroll, except for
Nice.
this one. This one's only got a 4.2, but I
That makes
can't
sense.
I can't help but laugh at it. It's just
I'm
so
surprised it has a 4 too.
it's so funny. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not very high up on the score, and of course, when you do your review for Waifu Wednesday, it's probably going to be down at the bottom
Hmm.
of it. But out of all the shows that
The only
made
question
me,
is if it'll be on top of Overtake or not.
it shouldn't.
Well, because nobody watches Overtake, so no one votes for it. So it stays pretty low.
See that?
Even though it's great, it's just like no one cares about racing except for like me and people I try to proselytize to. So
See,
it's
that's
like
funny
it's just
because
stuck at the
as
bottom.
far as a drama goes,
It's so
this
good,
and
right?
yeah, this is really up there for for more of a pure drama. Then, of course, being a sports drama, it just adds that extra element to it, and I think it's fantastic. It, especially these past few episodes, really they really dove into what happened and why the photographer guy
Yep.
has his issues, and it was
Well, and to have a sports drama where the main character crying is like A, he doesn't want anybody to know that he cried, and B,
hmm
you're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Like how many times you watch anime, you see someone cry and you're like, stop crying, do something. But here you're
exactly.
like, I get it, man. Like, sucks to be there. Like, I
Yeah,
know the feel.
and then last but not least is Helk continuation.
Last and least, got it.
So there's my 10, and yeah, the two that I absolutely don't skip is Freyrin and Goblin Slayer. The other ones I'm a smidge behind on, not terrible. I got pretty well caught up.
Nice.
Helk is the most behind, but it just had its third, or it's 23 of 24 episodes air. So that one I'm gonna have to binge to see what the hell happens.
There you go.
We're right there, right there at the end of it. So there
Awesome.
it is. The
Yeah, I've got so tomorrow is going to be a fun one. We got Waifu Wednesday, of course, where we're going to look at our top 10 list, but I've got a few more shows that I've added to things that I'm watching, i.e. Shangri-La. That's what I mean when I say a few more shows, meaning I can add Shangri-La to my discussions. But I also watched a very old show, and I say very old for the Zoomers in my audience. It's the 90s anime. So,
oh my lord,
I
it's just
watched
so old.
I watched Agent Ica, and
Ooh.
that was a blast from the panty ridden past. That was hilarious.
Uh,
Back when you made a plot and put a bunch of Japanese supermodel shaped women in it, and we're just like, hey, what if the camera was here instead of there? Very fun one. So that'll be a good one.
That sounds like it. I think that's what I going into this next year. I've got to make some changes to how I do things and everything else, and I think that's going to be a priority of mine. Not only being a little bit more picky with the shows that I start with, but also making sure that I'm going through and getting some of my classic stuff. Going to the Mesozoic period with the 70s, the hair metal 80s, the what the hell 90s, and then some stuff from the 2000s. Then of course, some of the early 2010 stuff that's still closer to how things were done in the 2000s as opposed to how they're done now.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of them that are that way. It's just a real big change with
Well,
how
and
things are
I
done.
think part of it too is like as I'm looking at the anime sphere and the videos that sort of like take off and the videos that don't take off.
Hmm.
Um, I'm now the Evangelion manifesto is now 13 pages long, and growing,
Wow.
and I've put quite a bit of work into that these past couple of weeks because I think the real way if you want to like change your content and make it something that's like, oh, I'll watch that, is you have to watch a thing and then do like
Hmm.
an actual full 10-minute review plus. Like
Yeah.
whether it's the 10-minute or like I always click the like there's a 6-hour video on Metroid. I'm going to watch that because I can just put it in my ear while I'm doing work, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not really paying attention because I know a lot about Metroid, but it's still kind of in my ear and I'm listening to it. But I think those sort of that long form review content is how you're gonna like get a growth. So you've got your list, you've got your 90s list, your
All the
sports
various lists. Yeah.
list, your isekai list. Um, I would find a spinner, find a dice, do something, and be like, oh, the spinner landed on isekai, and we're spinning the random number of 40. I'm watching this show, and we're gonna review it, and that'll just be like whether it's you can do it in like a week or if it's just like oh this month I have to watch this and then do a review on it. I think that'll
Yeah.
be the thing that I'm trying to move towards is get to videos that are produced in long form review.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Although uh, the right length is always the tough part. Some people can get away with 30, 40, 50-minute stuff. I don't have that type of time. So 10 minutes sounds about right. I think
Mm-hmm.
10, no more than 15, but that's just me.
Yeah, and it depends too
So,
if you can get it all done in that time. Like you don't have the time to do it in one sitting, but when you do 3 sittings, you got a 30-minute, right?
yeah,
So if you're like, oh, I
very
really
true.
want to say a lot about this, or you watch something, you're like, this was trash. Now it's a 1 minute short. Like nothing says
Yeah,
you have to make it really long, but I know I gravitate towards long form content and then using a lot of words. So that's where I'm leaning.
that works. I think that'll be good. And I've got my bud Clifton. He got through his editing stuff, and he said that he's ready to go and help me do a lot of editing. So
Nice.
it helps. Oh, I'm okay at editing, but I'm not good. I'll admit it. I suck at it. About the best thing I can do is snipping these type of things and doing a like a
Yeah, that's half the
previously.
battle right there.
Yeah. Well, I don't like. I tried doing higher quality editing, and I ended up spending so much time doing it that I got chewed for it. So I just can't devote the type of time needed myself. But
Yeah,
got somebody else that's willing to help out, but put some of the load on them.
yeah. Take some of that super chat money and put it there.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly,
that's the
exactly.
goal.
So let's see. So yeah, we're down to the 10, down to the wire for the year. Got some. I need to try and find a day or two that I can maybe call in sick and just start binging something.
Get a little bit of the coof on you. I don't know. I
Something
might
like
be.
that.
Maybe not. I can't tell. All the tests were out at the pharmacy that's 20 miles
Well,
away because I live in the boonies.
I'd have to do something else considering that I work from home,
Oh yeah.
60% or more of the time. Yeah, AMVs are ridiculous. I have no idea how anybody who was in or is still in the AMV scene can do that and have sanity. I just can't. I can't see it. So, so that's where that's at, and
Awesome.
I am also going to. I think I'm also going to start bringing a little more focus in on gaming and talking about that because I do love gaming and I like to do that and talk about it. But speaking of, since you are a Metroid fanatic, Did you know that there is a person that ported Metroid over to the Super NES?
Uh, wait, what?
Yeah, hold on a sec. Let me find it here because it is
Ported to the Super
astounding.
NES?
Yes. So let's see.
Oh, like the original
Yes.
Metroid? Okay.
Yep. Metroid SNES port. Who? There we
I mean,
go.
that makes sense. There's like there's so many different ROM hacks of those original games.
Well, it's not just a ROM hack. Well, it's partial ROM hack. The guy that did it was let's see, port by infidelity. I guess he's done some other stuff, but if you search for retro RGB, they did a playthrough of it. My Life in Gaming did a playthrough of it. But what he's done is he ported over, added in a bunch of a quality of life stuff into it, like your map, so that way you can see where the hell you're going, and basically all the stuff that was in the Metroid 3 as far
Mm-hmm.
as the quality of life stuff. But what he also did is he ported the original the NES release with the standard cartridge music, the Famicom Disk System version of the game, which had a better synthesizer system in it, so the musical arrangement's a little different, a little better. And then they did a MSU1 release, which is what they think it would have sounded like if we had actually received a Super NES CD add-on.
Yeah.
And it's fully orchestrated, and holy crap, so good. Plus, they did the Zero Mission soundtrack and sound effects
Oh, that's fun.
into the
That's like
original.
my favorite part about the Link to the Past randomizer that I do is you can get all the different sound packs for it too. You
Hmm.
can literally listen to whatever music you want as it plays.
Yeah, it's really cool what they can do with these things, and I guess it didn't take the guy too long to do it, but
Oh yeah, it's like
it's
all of 10 lines of code.
well, it's the guy that
You
did
just
it.
have
He
to speak the
does
moon runes and you got it. Like
he does
that's the
have
thing with
it up
old
on. Where is it?
those
It's on
old games though.
archive.org, so he's archived it. You can download it, and of course, you can run it through your Super Nintendo emulator. So, yeah, if you want something to play that's not a crazy, super ridiculously long Fire Emblem type playthrough, you can play the original Metroid in all of its Super NES glory.
That
Plus,
would be fun.
what it sounded like, he also did some cleanup of the
Burn
code
burn the
to where
chat and
you
like
don't
nuke.
have the slowdown like you used to on the NES version, less flickering, less of that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, the playthrough of it that I saw looked really cool.
Cool.
So that's the type of cool stuff that I'd love to see from the retro scene. It's much better than Capcom re-releasing or redoing or whatever it is that they do with their stuff these days. It's about all they do. So, what up, Nico? Nico, good to see you. So yeah, it's 11 o'clock here. My headache is not going away. I've been
Oh no.
dealing with it all day. I've been trying to wean myself down on the caffeine to where I'm not ingesting 500-600 micrograms a day from two rock stars and soda down to maybe 100-ish or so. And I was good yesterday. I'm shit today. I am not
No,
doing
that's
too
no good.
good.
Cuz you're cutting all of that.
Yeah, yeah, cutting it down, upping my water intake.
Cut the sugars out.
Yeah, trying to cutting the sugars out, trying to go lower carb. I can't completely get rid of carbs. For one, I like milk, and milk unfortunately has natural sugars, and that's got some carbs to it.
Mm.
And bread, I've been cutting back on my bread, but I still like bread, and I can't get rid of it. So I figure if I can get 100 g or less of that, then I'll be in better shape. But I've gotta I gotta do that and
You
get my
should
ass back to the
just
gym.
join me. Just join me. I'm eating nothing but steak.
I wish I could afford to eat nothing but steak.
You go to Costco, you go to anywhere and you buy like the whole roast and then you chop it up. No, I have yet to have a meal that costs more than $10.
Wow, it's what I'd like to do. It's It would if I didn't live with my in-laws, it would be easier because
Oh yeah,
then
because they're gonna always have their food in the house.
they are, and
Yep.
unfortunately, the shit they like to cook isn't.
Old people.
When they actually make it from scratch, my mother-in-law's a good cook. My father-in-law, not so much, but they have a tendency to do like the frozen chicken dumplings or the stuff that's breaded or
Yeah.
pasted up and all that. The staple in their household
Well,
when.
just act like you're a cranky toddler and scrape the breading off.
Well, it also doesn't help that they do a ton of pasta. So,
Oh,
and
that's
I
true.
love pasta,
Minus one
but
is better than Oppenheimer. I don't even see
yeah,
Oppenheimer.
I haven't seen Barbenheimer either. So yeah, but steak every day, that's a bit tough. But I could alternate between steak,
Eat steak
chicken,
every
and pork.
day. Yeah,
I could do
steak, chicken,
that.
pork. That's the other one. You get a whole pork loin, you chop that up into
Hmm.
pork chops, bam. You just took a $20 pork loin and made like 15 pork chops out of it. 20 pork
Yeah,
chops out of it.
I could do that.
That's like a
Plus,
buck
I
a meal.
yes, no, I am unbreaded. I don't want to be breaded.
Get unbreaded like me.
Yeah, well, I need to. It's shake the chin around, and
Uh-oh.
I've got more chins than Chinatown.
Oh no.
So yeah, I gotta do something because it's
Chop wood. That's the best for you.
yeah, yep. But
Life sucks.
I also finally got that friggin' planter off my foot. Oh, that son of a bitch hurts so bad to walk on all the time.
I mean, I imagine it'd be hard to walk with a planter on your foot.
Yeah, stupid plantar warts. I put up with
Oh.
that thing for 6 months.
I was thinking about a planter. What do you put up with it? You just put some like glue or duct tape around it and it kills it.
I wish.
What do you mean you
Nothing.
wish?
I had
Did you
this
duct
thing
tape it?
acided.
Did you
I
duct
put
tape it?
I had my doc put acid
I
on
don't, I
it.
don't care about your doc. I said, did you duct tape it? This is like Greeks and
No, why the hell
Windex.
would I duct tape it?
You wrap duct tape around warts and they go away.
Really? Wonder what
Yes,
it's got in it that deprives it.
it
Well,
destroys them.
in either case, I'm it's down to almost nothing. It doesn't feel like there's anything there. I'm just gonna put some stuff on it that I got
Duct tape.
for about another 2 weeks, and yeah, I
You
can.
think I'm joking? I'm not.
I don't doubt that, but who would have thought about duct tape?
I don't know. I just know that they told me, and it worked.
No, it's finally gone. I'm finally walking normal again, so now I can readjust how I walk because
Yay!
having that constant pain,
Makes it hard to move, and
yeah,
hard to
made it
move
really
means
hard to
hard to
move
lose
or do
weight.
anything. So, but finally,
Well, now you
progress is
got
being
no
made.
excuses. So I expect results come New Year. I want to see
Yeah,
you down 30 by the next New Year. Got it?
yeah, I definitely need to be down at least 30. And I've also kicked back into intermittent fasting, and I'm just in the 2 days I've done it so far, I do feel better, but I need to give it the extra boost of actually doing some physical activity. So,
Nice.
yay!
Woo.
All right, well, let's just do it this way. Everybody, send me a Twitter DM daily, call me a fat fuck, and that'll do it.
There we go. You got your marching orders, everyone.
That's right. DM me daily, say, get to the gym, you fat fuck.
Have you even lifted today,
Do you even
fatty?
lift,
Just
bro?
every time, just fatty.
I used to love to go to the gym when in my 20s, 3-4 times a week easily, going pretty heavy, and I was, let's see, at that point my lowest weight that I was at was 230, whereas now I'm up to about 310,
Oh
and
gosh, I mean
I
you
feel
you better
it.
be down 60 by the time we talk next New Year.
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay,
definitely need to do that.
that means 2 pounds. Wait, no, hold on. 12, 60. Calculator. It's too late for math. 5 pounds a month. Okay, almost a pound a week. All right, we can
I
do
think
this.
that's doable.
I believe in you,
Yep, just gotta get
you fat fuck.
my ass to the gym to get that little extra going, avoid the sugar, cut down the bread, and intermittent fast.
Awesome. All right.
All right,
Well,
guys.
have a good one.
Oh yeah, I will. definitely take care. We'll see you later.
See you. That was fun. And for anyone who thinks I'm kidding, here is the National Library of Medicine biotechnical information, PubMed. Okay. Duct tape therapy. Apply a small piece of duct tape directly on the wart once every 4 to 7 days. Then remove the tape, clean the area with soap and water, and remove the dead skin using an emery board. Apply another piece of tape 12 hours later. Repeat this cycle for 4 to 6 weeks. You put the duct tape on, you leave it on for a while, you peel it off, you clean it up, you put another one on. 3 pieces of tape, and I had a wart when I was a kid, and it was gone. Trust me. Trust me. I know I don't speak medically unless I'm making a joke about something that wouldn't work. So everyone, thank you very much for joining me for this review plus of Godzilla. I'll be cutting just the review section into a video to drop tomorrow, and we'll get that posted. I'll see you all tomorrow for Waifu Wednesday, where we will have a special surprise by a 90s anime that I watched, and get a little review on that. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll catch you then. Kanpai, everybody.